I kind of lied in my title. When I said Saltchemist, I meant potions as a whole. But with the addition of Saltchemist, incentivizing the usage of these potions, buffing it, making them usable in Chime, I feel like it is a good time to point out how broken these potions actually are. So getting straight into it, I just want to speak about Ether Drain. Now, Ether Drain, there are so many different things in this game that can drain Ether or cut off the usage of Ether-related activities such as mantras, right? You have Shadow, the attunement as a whole, you have the silencing path of Gale, and you have Silent Heart. Those are like the main ways people think of when you think of shutting off somebody's Ether and making them unable to use their kit and use their moves. Now with the incentivization of potions and the ability to use potions in Chime, alongside the buff that potions have received with this oath, another big option that would come to mind would be the Ether Drain potion. So if you look at the repercussions of these things that I listed, let's go down the list. Shadow, you have worse damage, right? Silent Heart, you don't have access to any mantras or attunements, especially their talents as well. And then we can move on to Gale, which has less damage, and it requires a lot of talents to utilize the attunement correctly. So all of these will make sense, right? You are getting this buff, which is draining the opponent's ether, and in return, you are dropping off some of these things, like the damage, all that. But for Ether Drain, right, for what we're talking about right now, you have no repercussion. You throw it at them, and their ether is gone. Completely gone. You still have full access to your mantras, you still do full damage, you still have access to your ether, unless you accidentally hit yourself. And this poses a huge problem. And let's go on to the conditions. Shadow, you need to actually land the mantra. Silent Heart, you need to flourish, uppercut, or crit. And Gale, you need to continue M1ing even after you land your first mantra. And Ether potions have none of these conditions. You hit it once and they're gone. They're disabled for like 10-15 seconds. And it's just ridiculous. And even then, Shadow, the Ether Drain isn't very good. Gale, the silence lasts very little unless you're constantly M1ing them. And Silent Heart is very restricting because of this lack of mantras and attunements. But with these ether reduction potions, you have a full kit at your disposal that you can just abuse. But even then, Ether Drain isn't the only effect that breaks the game like this. Posture damage. Okay, some might be thinking, well, it's just a small change, right? Well, no. So for posture damage, you have Stone Enchant, Ardor, and Champion's Regalia are the first things that come to the top of my mind. Stone Enchant, let's see, it takes up an enchant slot. Ardor, it makes regaining ether slower. Champion's Regalia, you need to flourish to actually proc the effect. Stone Enchant and Ardor only work on M1s. Posture potions work on everything. That's the issue. You don't need any requirements, and you can posture break with any mantra. 2 M1s, if you're using a heavy weapon, 1 M1, light weapons like 2 or 3. It's ridiculous. And then let's look at the Stone Enchant, right? Because it's only M1s, it's very hard to actually get that posture damage off. But with a lot of mantras that are super easy and people try to block all the time because a lot of the time they don't think they're going to take a lot of posture from it. Somebody with 40 posture can get insta guard broken by something like Flame Scourge, which is very easy to land on block, and you can force out block by feinting and waiting a period of time. They might dodge and hold F, you run in, you block break them. It's just super easy to utilize, and there's nothing else that can increase the posture of these mantras with no condition. Whereas a pot, you just throw it on their body. And you could argue that the condition would be landing the potion or using a slot. But I disagree, because you have 3 slots, which if it was a condition, you wouldn't have 3 options. And if landing a potion was an issue, you have to realize you can't block or parry the potion effect. And if you put down the field, even if you do dodge, it still applies the effect because you're in the field and the field is very large. Alright, so that's great. 2 potions. You know what? Some may argue that's not that bad. Well, it is, but whatever. Health potions. Oh my god. These are ridiculous. After the overhaul to the game, passive healing was pretty much completely removed because of how broken it was, well, for the entire game. Flame Wisp, you need fire to do tick damage, to actually heal off of the wisp. Blood Shadow no longer exists. Spit, very difficult to land. It's not passive, it's an active thing you need to do. And landing mantras to proc Bloodless, you need to first of all land them, and it actually does 30% less damage. And then you might say, Link Shredder, right? It's very difficult to land in 1v1s, very restricting, and the fact that it doesn't heal much at all. For every 2% of tick damage you do to the enemy, it only heals you 1%. Whereas you have a health pot, you will heal 2 full bars. I have a 41% potency potion because I have 82 intelligence. I heal 2 full bars from my invigorating potions, which are 3 Goblettos and 2 Beeswax. And the only condition to proccing this potion is drinking it, which can be easily achieved with things like Flame Leap, Ice Eruption, just things where you can get away. And here's the thing, they aren't even required. It's not like, oh, I need to waste a mantra slot, right? That's not even the thing, because you can climb while drinking potions. If you climb while drinking potions, you become basically impossible to hit unless somebody has a mantra that tracks very fast, or Radiant Kick, and they're very fast. And even then, some people play passive, they'll walk back, or maybe you can throw one of your fields down and easily get that potion off and heal 2 full bars. And you don't, it's passive. It's completely passive after you proc the initial potion. And then some people, you may be like, 3 potions, no big deal. 50% damage reduction. Do I have to explain why that's ridiculous? Charm, you need to land mantras. Pretty much everything that requires that, or like you have Fortitude, where you need to put points into Fortitude and take up talent slots. That is very important when you're min-maxing a build. But here, you just take a 50% damage reduction potion, throw it on the enemy, that is 50%. The only other thing in the game that does that is Electrified, which lasts like no time at all. Okay, so I know some of the counter arguments I may hear in the comments, and let me just address them right away. Some people may say, Saltchemist requires 75 int, Ether Overdrive, Neural Overload, and Prediction. Those are all broken on mage builds, which would be the main people using this oath. And then some may argue, well, you don't have other broken oaths. Well, how is that an argument? Because just because you don't have another oath doesn't make this oath any less broken. And just because you don't have active moves on the oath does not make the oath worse. Actually, I'd argue it makes it better, because it's like you get 3 different mantras because of those potions that recharge after around 40 seconds. And you get all of your mantra slots that you would have normally. And adding on that, Saltchemist incentivizes bomb usage, which is already broken on these kind of mage builds for when you need to regen ether, it's an easy speed boost, all that. Now, if this doesn't convince you that they need to do a huge overhaul on potions, I don't know what does. I never needed to make this video before. I was always aware of how good they were. It's just that now that you can use them in Chime, PvP is in shambles. People log from me more than 50% of the time, and this needs to be reworked. So please, Archmage, unban me and nerf them. I'll see you guys later. Please, if you watch to the end, subscribe. I really appreciate the support I've been getting. I'm almost at 10k. And I'll see you guys next time. Peace.